Hey guys, so today Sunny and I will be discussing semantic maps and semantic gradients. And if you have any questions or comments, you can leave something in the posts below. The purpose of semantic gradients is to help students understand how meanings are attached to different words. Children are taught a progression of words from one opposite to another, which can be defined as understanding the shades of meaning. This deepening sense of knowledge helps students enhance their understanding of related words. For example, happy, contempt, sad. All these words are related because they are all emotions and feelings, but they fall into a pattern sequence. Activities such as semantic gradients helps the student understand how words can be related, but also to various degrees. So, how do semantic gradients work? First, pick polar opposite words, like freezing and boiling. Second, find words that are similar, such as synonyms for each word. For example, boiling, warm, very warm, and hot. Freezing, mild, cool, and cold. Third, now you want to create a connection or bridge between your polar opposite main words and their synonyms in an order that goes by degree of each term. For example, freezing, cold, mild, warm, very warm, hot, boiling. So, how does this help students? Well, according to Reading Rockets, one of the ways in which this intervention helps students is by enhancing their social skills. Social skills can be developed by communicating with peers. Communications helps build vocabulary. However, another benefit is that communication, in terms of semantic gradients, helps children understand perception. Perception occurs when information is processed between the nervous system and the brain. When perception occurs, a child can analyze, break down, and form an opinion on how they perceive something, such as words. So, how does this connect to semantic gradients and its benefits? Well, children may organize their semantic gradient differently, or they may use different words with the same meaning, such as hot instead of very warm, or vice versa. Students can create conversation between themselves or amongst themselves and understand why each other has constructed their semantic gradient differently or similar. So, how are they used in schools? Well, they are used in schools in multiple ways, and by multiple ways, I mean they can work on building semantic gradients individually on their own. They could also work in pairs, and they can also work in groups, or they can work individually but still among smaller groups, which would bring in the fact that once they create their semantic gradient, they can talk to one another and discuss how each person has constructed their semantic gradient. Um, this would help increase socialization among them, obviously, and also this would help them understand new vocabulary and different meanings, and how each person and their peers perceive the same type of words, the same synonyms or antonyms. Another thing to note is that semantic gradients, when it comes to school, they don't have to be just used for vocabulary, although they are most effective with vocabulary. They can also be used in other topics, so this can be like math, for example. Students can create like a continuum for different subjects. So semantic gradients, they're really versatile, but they're most effective when it comes to learning new vocabulary and understanding meaning towards words and the degree to which each word is. There are tons of research supporting semantic gradients. One study is by Greenwood and Flanagan. Their study discusses what semantic gradients are, how they are used, and the types of semantic gradients that exist. Two types of semantic gradients include selection semantic gradients and generation semantic gradients. According to Greenwood and Flanagan, selection semantic gradients is when an already made box containing a line of with two polar opposite words at each end also has a group of words below that are to be placed by the student along the continuum. This is similar to filling in blank words into a passage, except in this case, the student will align the given words below along the continuum based upon the degree of each word. The second type of semantic gradient is called generation, where the students are not given a word box like in selection semantic gradients. This type of semantic gradient is less structured but allows flexibility for the students to create a semantic gradient. There's also a second study by Levin and Tezelgov, which discusses semantic gradients on a different level. Greenwood and Flanagan focused more so on a continuum of words. However, in the study discussed, along with the study by Fox and Shore, this looks at semantic gradients based on inference with the Stroop test. Earlier, I mentioned how the traditional semantic framework increases a student's understanding of relatedness. However, in these two studies, the words are manipulated with different colors, such as writing the word red in a yellow font. The studies concluded that there is a connection between inference and the relation of words. However, this depends on specific attributes that are being focused on during the task. In another study, Nelson Jr. set out to explain what would be an effective and efficient curriculum that will help students enhance their vocabulary skills. One of the statements made is that the use of semantic gradients will help enhance vocabulary by helping students identify new words based off of knowledge they already know. By making these connections, students will be able to not just enhance their vocabulary, but also enhance other areas such as perception. Nelson also indicates how traditional learning practices limit students' ability to perform to their full potential. For example, many teachers use multiple choice based tests as a method of identifying a student's understanding of vocabulary. However, this is a flawed approach as it does not allow students to utilize prior knowledge on words, context, and meaning. Instead, this one dimensional approach focuses on just new words and not building connections. This is where semantic gradients come in. Semantic gradients are noted in this passage as a means to help students build upon their prior knowledge of words. By using a lexical approach, students have a better chance at growing their vocabulary. Further research by Brigham, Buskiss, Henderson, Paleologos, and Bow also indicated that movement also increases a student's understanding of word meaning. In their research, they used synonyms and antonyms on a continuum. This continuum also contains words based off of the Christmas blizzard. The words that were used were to describe the story, were focused on speed and loudness. In comparison, Greenwood and Flanagan used paper and pencil for semantic gradients. They also focused on older children. However, in this study, the researchers found that using technology that involved screen touch for semantic gradients helped younger children understand word meaning. This may be because physical movement helped the younger children become more engaged with a learning style that was less traditional and more interactive. So instead of using pencil and paper to create a semantic gradient, they used computerized technology, screen touch, instead. In another study by Jack, the researchers examined 8 research-based studies that focused on expanding and enhancing vocabulary in school-age children. This study breaks down a number of different methods that have shown to be effective. One of these includes semantic gradient interventions. The results from this study showed that lessons about vocabulary taught using semantic features enhance the overall grades and learning of children. This positive impact of using semantic gradients confirmed what the other studies that what the other studies have said about semantic gradients of helping children understand meaning to words by expanding upon their current knowledge of words.
Hey guys. So, my half of the project was on semantic mapping, which is kind of the same concept as a graphic organizer, but really mine is more of like a concept map. So, this is taking more like a vocabulary sense to things so kids can kind of gain um, a stronger vocabulary. A semantic map is used to visually display a word to help identify, understand, and recall the meaning of words. So, this is going to help them build their vocabulary for each word that they're unfamiliar with during a text. So, if they're looking at a book and they're like, I don't know what this word means, let me skip it, and then they can't figure out the rest of the sentence, reducing their comprehension. So, or decreasing their comprehension of the text at hand. So, the semantic mapping can be used before reading, during reading, and after reading. And the good thing about this kind of intervention is that the method can be used on paper. We can print out a map, we can draw a map. It doesn't matter what you want to do. You can use it on paper as long as it's considered an actual semantic map, or you can use it on an electronic device. So if there is a student who, has assisted device needs or anything like, or technology assistance kind of needs like that, you can still provide that student with assistance on a semantic map. So you can use these either way, and it really works well for both sides of things. Okay, so I really wanted to touch on when you would use the semantic map because I thought that it was important, just as important as what the steps are, because I think using it before, during, and after reading is super important. So that way they can kind of keep up with the new vocabulary that they're learning. So, an example that specifically came from the article Zorfus, Gray, and Power Up What Works. This actually came from Reading Rockets, the website. Um, and so they used a very specific example. So they used Abraham Lincoln's personality. They took a text that specifically discussed Abraham and what he did and what his personality is. So they used the website to access this information. And then they use an example, Mr. Green. He planned out his lesson and he organized it into 3 sections to show the steps he will take before reading, during reading, and then after reading. So at the beginning, he introduces the goals to the students. We want to know all the information we can about Abraham Lincoln and his personality. The second thing was, again, we wanted to give the child a choice between different maps that they could use. That way it doesn't just feel like, well, this is all you can use and that's it. This kind of gives them a little bit of autonomy with it and feels like a little bit of control. So they get the option between 3 different maps that they can use specifically. Next, they want to display and discuss the website on Abraham Lincoln specifically in this article. So in the classroom, they're going to pull up the website. They're going to look at all the information that's listed on there about Abraham Lincoln. And then they're going to take a class discussion. They're going to discuss what they saw, what they read, all the different things that is on this website. Then they're going to invite students to fill out the maps with words, definitions, and images. So this could be if a student sees a word that's unfamiliar or something that they're like, that doesn't really register. I'm not really sure I remember what that word means, or I've never seen that before. So they can kind of put that in the middle, and then they can use their webs and everything. So then we're going to look at definitions and images. So if there's anything there that we need to be putting in the maps, this is the time that we can start filling out the maps, learning the new words, learning the definitions, what our context clues are, and really putting that word together. And then finally, if the class has a class website, this specifically says the class has a website. So in this article, they saved one general web to the class website. So that way all students, I think schools now are using like Google Slides and stuff and Google Docs for, or Google Classroom, that's what it is, for things for students to all access the same thing. So they may have uploaded it to like a Google Classroom style website, and that way everybody has the same access to the same word and all the definitions that everybody came up with as a group discussion. Now, during reading, they're going to continue practice with this semantic map. So they're going to continue using the map as a group or maybe individually. And then they want this one specifically is using multimedia maps. So that might be something that you use and maybe something you don't specifically for this one. And then this one also has, during reading, they want to have the students discuss and share new vocabulary in the map. So if one student has something that another student might, this is a great time for the students to really share and learn how to collaborate together. And then after reading, this is when we use to have the students begin making the multimodal president cards. So this specifically, this teacher wants the students to make these different cards about the president, and different ideas about him and all the different things that they've discussed during the lesson. And then the teacher wants to set the criteria for the cards, the name of the president, the vocab words, the definitions, images, and sentences. So this is all about how we're bringing it together and building more vocabulary and comprehension on what we've learned in the website and in the lesson itself. That's it. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about the steps to actually using a semantic map. So that was a really specific example of what a teacher would do in a lesson in the classroom and really explain and go through what they would need to be looking at and how they would discuss and share and collaborate. So specifically, if you're wanting to implement a semantic map, you could pick a word from the text that may be of difficulty for the child. So let's just say that Annie is reading an article on dogs and she is struggling with understanding different words or maybe different types of dogs. We could pick the word that she's having difficulty with from that text, and then we take a blank map. Either one, we could use it on the on an electronic device if that's necessary, or we could draw a new map or use a blank map that's already pre-printed. So we want to show them how to use it and kind of what the process of using it is, because we don't want to just place it in front of them and say, here you go. So we want to talk to them about what goes next and what goes in the center of the map. The word goes in the center of the map. So we're going to place the word there, and then we're going to have them pronounce the word. So where if the child is having difficulty with the word retriever, for golden retriever, we would have them place the word in the middle of the map, then pronounce the word retriever, and then we would use all the context clues. The next step is to use the context clues to find any words that are related to that map. Related to that word, and add them into the webs of your map. Then we want to look up the definition of the target word. So if we're going to use golden retriever, let's just hypothetically say that we use that. We would look up the definition to the word golden retriever, and we would realize that one, it is a dog. So that's a simple example, but we'll use it. And we would put the definition of we would look up the definition of the target word, and then we would want to find words and phrases that match the target word. So dog or breed, things like that. Those are different words that kind of match the understanding of what a golden retriever could be. And then we want to add those words to our map. So we can put those in the different subcategories. And then we want to read the text again, but have the child apply the new meaning to the word while they're reading the text. So the first time they read the text, they get to golden retriever and they're like, what the heck is that? Then we go through the map, we put it all together, and then we reread the text and say, golden retriever is a type of dog. Okay, I got it now. So then we have the students share and compare their maps with their classmates. So let's just say that one child is having difficulty with the word golden retriever, but another child is having a difficulty with the word breed. That's a great time to be able to say, well, Annie knows what the word breed means, but Johnny doesn't. So we're going to collaborate together and we're going to learn that way. So this research article by Little and Box is actually it's more recent than the research we've all been looking at. It's from 2011, but they do use a lot of dated research as well. So this one specifically went into the explanation of using semantic mapping for something specific like learning about a new country. This is where they use semantic mapping specifically to make sense of reading, document learning, or thinking, and then brainstorming on projects, because we see a lot of students who can brainstorm, but then they can't put a whole lot of details within their projects and in their writing and things like that. So this one says that the article states that that a semantic map is a graphic representation of a student's generated responses to a topic. This could be an individual process, or it could be a class process if the teacher decides to do it as a group. Teachers are able to make sense of the students' collective knowledge and then break that down into the subtopics that are listed in an actual semantic map, which is the different webs that come out of the center of the map. So this one specifically describes an example that is used actually in the social studies class, learning about Australia. So what they did was they placed a blank map in front of the students with the target topic in the middle, which was Australia. So at first, they said, we want all of you guys to silently brainstorm everything you know about Australia, and then write down everything you think of. As a group, they collectively came up with all the different things they thought of, and the teacher wrote it on the board. Each student takes turns sharing their ideas, so they all feel like they have a part in this. And then all the appropriate responses are written down on the board overhead, whatever they're using. And then the teacher takes those pieces and separates them into subcategories. So this one specifically says, some of the students said Sydney, Outback, kangaroos, koalas, Opera House, mountains, Great Barrier Reef, wombats, things like that. So those were some of the ideas that some of the students came up with as a group effort. Then the teacher was able to go down the list and place a subtopic of animals of Australia. So she added kangaroos, wombats, koalas, things like that. And then she was able to take another subgroup and place names of Australia: Sydney, Opera House, Great Barrier Reef, Canberra, Outback. And then she placed another subcategory called Geography of Australia, which was Outback, mountains, Great Barrier Reef, continent, down under, different geographical representations of it. And then another subgroup was the facts about Australia. So in the middle, she had Australia and all these different webs going out from the middle of that. This one included large land area, continent below the equator, to country, different things like that the students had come up with on this big long list of things. So from there, they all wanted to see, they had this big conversation about Australia and all the different things, and then they went back and then they used the concepts that the kids all came up with, and they retained a new knowledge of what all goes into being a part of Australia. So this was a really good representation of what they may have not known before about this country. Okay, so for this one's a little bit different because it goes into a different setting. The previous slide talked about a social studies setting. This one actually talks about a writing setting from a reading specialist perspective. So this teacher, this reference, I should say, came from, what is her name? Kathleen Richards in 1993. And she used semantic mapping specifically to increase the details in student writing. So before she put these into place, she was getting students giving her, after 20 minutes, a fourth grader would turn in a paragraph that read, "My snake is green. He sleeps in my room. He eats mice. His name is Pete." That would be a typical paragraph that she would receive before she implemented the semantic mapping. And at a fourth grade level, we should see a little bit more details in it. We should be seeing a little bit more adjectives and things, which is kind of what she was focused on. So once she had students in front of her, she wanted to she wanted to use something simple. So she had all the students look at an American flag. Here she had the students look at the flag and everything that goes with the flag. So the flagpole, whether it was wooden or if it was metal, if it was a big flag, a small flag, the colors in the flag. She wanted all the different details of this flag. So once she did that and all the students came together and talked about all the different things that they noticed, she took the size of the flag, the colors of the flag, the shape, composition, and designs, and put those all into different subcategories, or made those the subcategories. So all the different things that the students came up with size, the colors, they all went into the different categories. And once she did that, all the students were able to go back, talk to each other, talk about what they saw about the flag, and then she had them write a paragraph on it and use the details that they noticed on the flag and that they put in the semantic map. So maybe she had put this on the wall or on the chalkboard or something that everybody collectively together said, this is what we see about the American flag. And now she puts the task on them to say, I want you to write a paragraph on the American flag. I want you to give me as many details as you can. And then she found that the students were providing her more details, talking about the American flag is red, white, and blue, and the pole is wooden, and it was a large flag, or small, whichever. So she found that using semantic mapping also helped to categorize different details that they can pull back and use in their writing. So it doesn't just improve their vocabulary skills. It also improves their detail in writing. So this was another success article that I found, and she really seemed to find that it provided them with a way to remember their details that they talked about and that they all collectively came up with, and which was good because in the fourth grade, like I said, we would like to see a little bit more detail in writing.